Mentioned again, one of the Hall of Fame events was sightings over Kirtland Air Force Base in 1980. Let's put that in context a little bit.
Well, there are some documents in circulation, which again, as most of these documents are, become quite a topic of controversy. They did involve a series of events, sightings over Kirtland Air Force Base, as detected and filmed by a gentleman named Paul Bennewitz, who had a scientific technical development company there that had government contracts. In fact, his office resided virtually at the gate of Kirtland Air Force Base, and he lived in an area of Albuquerque which overlooked a portion of the Kirtland Monzano base area, and reported seeing a craft landing and over a period of time, and reported this to people. He also knew people in the military at Kirtland. According to the documents, an investigation ensued, and there was the military took an interest in his story, and as the story developed, it began developing quite a different character. As more information emerged, Mr. Bennewitz was gaining information via his computer terminal, ostensibly from an alien civilization or life form, quite extensive material. And also he was led to believe the aliens were harassing or persecuting him, entering his home. And involved in all this was the account of a possible underground base or facility near Dulce, New Mexico, which has also become more known in the field in the last several years. Then another element of controversy injected into this was the suggestion that what happened to Mr. Bennewitz, at least in part, was part of a manipulative government disinformation campaign. The idea being that he actually stumbled onto something that was real and pertinent and perhaps involving national security, and it was felt that some kind of damage control had to ensue to ensure that either his credibility would be damaged forever, or he would essentially be negated as a credible source. And eventually the story became so obfuscated and complicated with peripheral elements that at this time I don't know if we'll ever know what really happened. But the plausibility exists that yes, he did stumble onto something, and perhaps he was the subject of disinformation, and to see how he reacted to it. And again, it's a story we may never know the full details of.
Okay. Now, to back up to the actual sightings, it was actually an area called Coyote Canyon on the eastern edge of the base. Now, some of these reports contained statements from military personnel, did they not, that they had apparently witnessed some of the same things that Bennewitz was claiming to have seen.
Yeah, there are military personnel there, some of whom knew Bennewitz, and in later years spoke highly of his credibility, and felt that he had not purposely or intentionally perpetrated any kind of fabrication or hoax himself, that they felt whatever he was involved in was either real and possibly anomalous, or again something was he was being fed information for someone's purpose, for their own ends. Whether these people will later speak out publicly, and whether the story will actually will gain a better perspective on it, that still remains to be seen. But there still remains interest in the Bennewitz story and the Kirtland story, because of it's so replete with, again, stories of underground facilities, even under Kirtland and Albuquerque itself, psychics who have detected such facilities. But again, as in most cases along this line, difficult to separate signal from noise, and probably unlikely we'll ever really know for sure unless an accident occurs.
An accident being?
Well, if we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with human frailties and foibles and predilection for mistakes, and even the mafia has leaks, and accidents do happen. So you would think that as time goes on, it would seem something along this line would happen. if we're dealing with humans. But then again, if we're dealing with a different kind of intelligence, superior intelligence, perhaps they would seem to us capable of conducting their operations with impunity. Or again, according to some of the accounts, including in New Mexico, they're working in concert to some degree. There's collusion between our military, or at least some of our people in one or more alien groups operating in these underground facilities.
Okay. Speaking of these underground facilities, again, Bennewitz has actually more than one tie to the beginnings of these stories. He was involved in the investigation of an abduction case, and you can fill in the blanks here. Apparently, a woman was claimed to have been taken to an underground facility somewhere in New Mexico and witnessed some very horrific things.
Yeah.
And then the Dulce story cropped up a little bit later about that. Is there any connection between those, except that Bennewitz is involved, or?
Well, again, these connections, there's still even a misunderstanding now of just how these things fit together. But the case in question occurred in May of 1980, and we happen to know Dr. Leo Sprinkle, counseling psychologist from the University of Wyoming, who had been involved in UFO abduction investigations for years, one of the early pioneers, in fact, in that field. Also, he had been involved in investigating many of the phenomena in the San Luis Valley, where we, again, first kind of got ourselves involved in this. So we were able to talk to him from time to time, and we happened to run into him at a conference in May or June of 1980, shortly after this event had happened. And you could tell that whatever happened, whatever his involvement was, whatever information he heard, either seemed to be disturbing or he reacted differently from that of most of the cases he's dealt with. As we questioned and found out more, it turned out that the case involved a woman and her son in the Cimarron area of New Mexico who apparently saw an animal, a cow, being levitated or about to be taken into a craft. And, of course, they'd heard about the animal mutilations that had occurred, and she was aghast that this would occur, and she jumped out of the car and apparently yelled something or tried to stop it from happening. And through whatever series of events ensued, she and her son ended up being abducted. And according to her account, taken to an underground facility. Now, the early accounts indicated this would have been Dulce, although there are statements the woman herself made under hypnosis that suggested she felt she was in the Las Cruces area of southern New Mexico. So that's still a little unclear. But through a chain of events and a chain of contacts, the story got back to Paul Bennewitz, and he had a personal physician who was able to involve Dr. Leo Sprinkle in the investigation early on. And so there were one or more hypnotic regression sessions involving the mother and her son, and the report being taken again underground to a facility where there were humans and aliens working together, or at least there together. And plus there were containers of what appeared to be body parts, perhaps of human and aliens both. And this is where she was subjected to procedures which are similar to those reported by people taken aboard aerial craft. And of course she was later returned to the original site. And the strange thing was, and this has only come out recently, it's developed that there was another case that occurred actually in the late 50s of an abduction experience that a woman had at what she terms the exact location of the 1980 case. And although at this point we don't know the details of her story, she may have been taken underground too, but that's a little unclear. But she knew of the Cimarron event and knew where it occurred, and she had kept this quiet for many years. And even now the story is being handled with with kid gloves. They're being careful about it, which they probably should be at an early stage. But again, whether there's any significance in the locations or not, that remains to be seen. But the case of the Cimarron case was one of the very few involving a reported animal mutilation or a part of that process, occurring during a UFO abduction. But again, that's more the exception than the rule. So that being the case, difficult to know how it really fits into the overall scenario.
Well, we've heard of a case out there involving a Barbara Glasgow, possibly one abduction or a series of abductions in the same place in Cimarron.
Now, I've not heard the name, so now I have.
And her husband
It's a good interview.
was peripherally involved in the investigation of the Myrna Hansen case.
Right, that's it.
Policeman.
Yeah, that was the connection. He was a state policeman.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, some things happening just very recently in regard to that. As I say, I didn't know her name. My impression was she was very concerned about keeping a low profile. Maybe she had...
Not anymore.
Really?
Well, she was.
Well, there was an indication maybe she had been damaged or, badly handled.
Well, she
and
was.
Having confided in someone that, I don't know what happened, but she was burned. And now is wanting to talk to someone, so I guess she has.
Yeah, she has.